Tanya.
Hi, Natalie.
Welcome to the What podcast.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, it's fun to have you. We were just talking about how your class ended a month ago. I can't believe that time flies like that.
I know it's going so fast. My dad always told me when I was little not to wish time away because it goes faster and faster and faster. And now I'm just like, how do I slow it down?
It's so interesting you say that. First of all, so that's a really wise quote. And I remember when I was a kid, summers would last forever.
Yeah,
And now I see the trees blooming and I'm like, oh no, summer's going to be gone soon. I
I
think that's
know.
how it goes.
Yeah, and when we're running a business and we're thinking in terms of like quarters and we're putting things in and it's, I was scheduling stuff out in August and I'm like, wait a minute, how am I scheduling things in August? Summer hasn't officially started yet.
I know. Okay. Well, it's really yeah, it's a bit scary, but also, you know, it's such a great opportunity to take advantage of the moment. It reminds us of what coaching brings to the table, which is that presence to the now and where you have the most power. So I'm excited to get into this conversation, but first you have to tell people who you are. So
Alrighty.
yeah, go ahead.
Well, my name's Tanya Gibson, and I'm the founder of Redefined Possibilities. So that's a company I've created. And it got created from a little dream, a little seed that got planted in my head that became a dream. And it's all about, redefining the possibilities in your life. I really believe that we are the creators of our lives. And whether that be in career or business or just in general, we get to consciously create whatever it is that we want. And, when we can think in terms of what if, in terms of the possibilities that we want, the ones that we desire, like anything is really possible. So yeah, I created this during the pandemic.
Oh, wow. Okay. Tell me about that. What prompted it? Like, what were you going
We were going through a corporate restructuring, and I had been in the corporate world at this company for about 14 years at that point, and it just was time. It just was time. I was ready to make a bigger impact. I loved my job, loved my team. I really enjoyed the company I was working for, and I wanted something different, wanted something bigger in terms of impact, and wanted to impact more people than just the department I was leading. And so I took advantage of a restructuring and took the leap.
Oh, amazing. What was that like? Like making that decision and, you know, taking that.
It it was interesting because my body was the one guiding it, like a
Oh,
lot of it. And there were periods where I was terrified because I thought, what am I doing?
right. Yeah. Normal.
But anytime I thought about staying or not doing this or not taking the leap, my body wouldn't let me. Like my body was yanking me along the way. So, when you just have that inner pull, that inner guidance, it's like you're going here and you're like, are you sure? Are you really sure? And it's just pulling you along the way. So I really had to follow that inner calling and keep going. And yeah, it was scary. I did have full support of the company I was working for. They knew I was doing this. So they were great. And yeah, it just started to unfold. Um, I had another kink thrown in the way though.
What's that?
um, After like in the midst of all of this, after I made the decision, I let my company know, we finalized all the paperwork. I was diagnosed with cancer.
Oh, wow.
So it was sort of like, the universe's way of saying, okay, if you want to show people how to create the life that you want, go for it. Here you go.
So when you said your body was leading the way, is that really what you meant? Like that you could feel, sense that somehow? You didn't, I guess, know yet about the diagnosis?
No, it was a complete surprise. It was a shock. I hadn't had any symptoms. It was sort of found on a whim. Um, no, it was that my body was leading the way in the sense it was just that inner pull, that inner,
Mm.
like, you're going here.
Interesting. Well, I'm so sorry to hear about the diagnosis. How are you now, though? You're okay now?
Yeah, and you know, I strongly believe that we're not defined by our circumstances, but rather, you know, how we handle them, how we choose to go through them. And you know, I when it happened, I mean, I was in complete shock, and I just got to I said to myself, like, this is no different than anything else that I look at in life. So how do I want to go through this?
Mm,
What is it that I want this to mean for me? And I kind of just created a story around that, and that was sort of like my guiding light
right.
through it all. And you know, I just went through the experience with the story that I created and let that lead the way. I'm doing well. I'm doing well now.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's changed my life, but I think it's also been a lot of fuel for the business that I've created.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's why I love the question, how is this happening for me? Because it
Mhm.
forces you to look for the opportunity and even the worst case situation.
Yeah, and you know, I remember reading somewhere along the way that circumstances, everything is neutral until you assign meaning to it.
Yeah.
And after I got the diagnosis, I mean, you're in shock. There's no way around it. Like, you're in complete shock, and you know, there's a part of you that pulls you into that fear. And I just remembered that saying that came right into my head. This is neutral until you assign meaning to it. So what meaning do you want to assign to it? And right away I was like, oh, this is what allows me to live a long, healthy life till I'm 100. And that was the meaning I
Love that.
assigned right away.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a great reframe.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, how did that experience shape your current like focus now, your coaching and also I'm curious if you can weave in, were you a coach before? Like what brought you to coaching?
Oh, yeah. What brought me to coaching? Well, my first coaching experience happened, I was doing the math earlier, it was over 20 years ago. So a long time ago. And I was unhappy in my job and I didn't know what to do. And I learned about coaching and I hired a coach and I did the thing and I I was like, okay, I don't know what to do with this. I remember in that session we had a yellow piece of construction paper and she was asking me questions and I had a crayon and I had to write down like things about what my ideal job was and what that would look like. And I came home with this piece of paper and I threw it in my filing cabinet and I thought, I don't know what to do with this. And about 2 years later, I was cleaning up my filing cabinet and I found that. And I had gotten in the exact same job that I had outlined on that
Wow.
yellow piece of construction paper. So that was my first experience. And I thought, oh my gosh, there's something to this. There's something to setting intentions, getting clarity, planting those seeds. And subconsciously along the way, like I was making decisions not fully aware, you know, perhaps because of that exercise. So the company I was at that point invested in leadership development, and I was exposed to an executive coach there, and worked with her for I think 10 years of my 14 years there, and it was a pivotal experience in my career and my development and my growth in the organization. And it was just so impactful for me that I was like, I need to do this. Um, I've always had a passion for health and wellness and nutrition and had pursued a nutrition degree on the side. So I was doing health and wellness coaching. And I just started looking at like how that was so impactful and powerful. Like I started bringing elements of that into my team and into what I was doing and started looking at things holistically. So I naturally started becoming a coach in the leadership world before I got certified. And it was through the health and wellness. So it was just sort of that evolution. And it just kind of pulled me along. And then I was like, I want to do this. I want to get certified and pursue this as an avenue in my business.
Do you ever look back and go, yeah, of course that happened? Like of course that was the, you kind of feel like looking back, it's clear, not while you're in it necessarily, but Yeah.
Oh yeah, while I was in it, I just thought like, why is my life so zigzaggy? Like why isn't it just like this natural progression of one thing that makes sense after another? And my life just seemed to be like a zigzag of multitude of things. And now it all makes sense. Like it all makes sense. It was all happening. But I will say, I always pursued what lit me up,
Mm,
and I think when we pursue the things that we're interested in, we feel excited by, we feel inspired by, it's all going to fit into a puzzle at some point in time. And that picture we're creating along the way when we're inspired by, the actions that we're taking.
mm. So when you reflect on this now, what was the biggest learning for you? Like, what did you learn about yourself?
Oh my gosh. There's so many things, but I think ultimately it's you know the power of our mind, and it's what we're thinking. You
Mm,
know, um, I've learned to really pay attention to my thoughts, and I have little meetings with myself because I need to hear like what am I thinking, what's going on in this brain of mine, because it's always giving me guidance. The things that I'm complaining about is giving me guidance towards my desires. It's giving me guidance towards opportunities. It's giving me guidance towards the things that, I could create in my life. Um, so, when we kind of go around a little bit mindless, which we all do, it's human nature, we miss those opportunities. So I think the biggest lesson that I've learned that has just proven so beneficial to me is take time to listen to
mm,
those thoughts. And sometimes they make no sense. You just let that stream of consciousness come out, but there's always a little seed in it that's like, I wonder what that's about, or I wonder what that means. And when you can get curious about those thoughts that are rolling around in there, they start to unfold.
yeah. Oh, I love that. I love the little meetings too.
Oh yeah, when you're building something, you're on your own. I'm a very social person, and I loved having a team and being in a team environment. So when I came to do this on my own, I was like, oh, I'm a team of one. So I assigned myself like my little roles. So every now and then I'm like, okay, it's time to go for a CEO meeting. I'll go for a walk. And I was like, what do I want to think about right now? What do I want to explore? So it's those little ways to tap into those things that you would have in a corporate environment. But it sometimes I feel like I sound crazy when I talk about it, but it has been really beneficial for me.
Mm. I think it sounds like a really healthy coping, mechanism for it is a lonely place to be a coach when you're a
Mhm.
solo entrepreneur. And that's one of the reasons why we built the community. It was to help coaches feel less alone, really, because that's
Mhm.
how I felt too when I started. And so, what do you think is the one thing that shapes your career? And I guess I'm asking from the perspective of coaches who are listening who might be new to coaching, thinking about becoming a coach, just graduated from the program, whatever it might be. The number one question I get all the time is, how do you build it? How do you build this business? So, what would you say was your trajectory in building this business for you?
Um, I mean, I was building it. It was happening in phases for me because it started off originally when I was doing nutrition coaching and health and wellness, and then from there it was evolving because I was like, what, like how do I turn myself into one person, because I was doing one thing on the side, one thing at work, but I was using the same skill set.
Mm,
um, and then I was like, okay, I'm putting all of this together and see what this looks like. And then from there it started to evolve. And I think the thing is you're never going to have it perfect at the onset, and you can plan as much as you want,
yes.
but it's the plan's only good for about a week. Like you need guidance. You need to know where you're going. You need to have like that high level plan, but leave it at high level and allow yourself to move, allow yourself to get out there and take action and to fall down and to get back up and to pivot and like all that stuff, and allow it to evolve. So it's, we talk about the beginner mindset in coaching. You have to have that in developing a business as well.
Right.
Use the strategy for the things like your operating expenses and your revenue and getting your taxes filed on time. But allow yourself the room to move and explore and create and see what works and see what doesn't, and be imperfect in the process, because it will unfold and you'll get insight in doing that. You'll get way more insight than sitting down and writing a plan.
Yeah, that agility has certainly served me as well. And so then what would you share with somebody who says, well, how do you get through the hard times, the times where you just want to give up and you just think, oh man, this is not going to work? Or like, what was your strategy in that?
I know my why.
Mm.
And I think that it's important to write your why. It's important to revisit your why. On the hard days, go back to your why and read it. And you're going to have hard days, and you're going to have lots of them. You're going to have lots of great days, but it's on the hard days where, you got to revisit, like, why am I doing this? And sometimes there's so much insight in the hard days because maybe it's a pivot that you need. Maybe, it's a little bit of, more creative time, more of something you're not giving yourself. So when the hard days come, sit with it, see what they're telling you, revisit your why, and just, go for a walk and ask, okay, what's my next best step? And be
Mm.
okay with the hard days.
I like that. What's my next best step, you said? Yeah, I like
Mm-hmm.
that.
Yeah.
And what were some of the biggest challenges you faced? I mean, obviously you had your health scare and you left during a company. It sounds like a comfortable job during COVID. Those are two big ones.
Oh yeah, that was, I mean, the night the doctor called me,
Mm.
I was just in so much shock, and I I had signed my severance agreement the week prior.
Oh
And
wow.
I was like, "Oh my God." And my severance was like, it was a phase out, so I was still working for another few months. But I had to go into work like the next week and say, "Yeah, now I'm done now." So I just thought, like, the first thought that hit me is like, what am I doing? And is this a sign that I should be staying? Right? Like,
Mm. Yeah.
should I stay? That was the first thing that hit me. And I was like, I have to trust myself. And the answer was no. And it didn't make logical sense because I was going through so much at that time.
Hmm.
Um, and then you get through that phase. I had hired a consultant to help me figure out, especially while I was recovering, because I couldn't, it was in my eye. So I couldn't do work on the computer. There was so much I couldn't do. So I hired somebody to help me. And that was a great experience. We get it all done. And we get my website done. We get my company name done. Like we transitioned everything over. And then I realized I couldn't work on the computer for more than 20 minutes at a time. And I was like, oh my God, what am I doing now? So, I had to, again, through that hard time, say, okay, there's an opportunity in this for me. I don't see it yet. I don't know it yet. Keep going through the motions and keep moving. Um, and I learned new ways of working. I learned new ways of doing things that now when I look back, I'm like, oh my gosh, if I had applied that in my corporate world, life would have been so much easier. Like
Yeah.
I have to work differently to support my health and my eye, but I'm much more focused now. I'm much more productive. I have, tips and tricks and ways to do things that help me, that allow me to not be on a computer all day long. Um, so, like each of those things, I just continually asked myself, what is the opportunity that I don't see yet in this? Am I open to finding an opportunity and allowing it to unfold? Um, and I just have incredible persistence. It takes a lot for me to give up. And this is something I really, really believed in. So I wasn't giving up.
When you're saying that, I'm reminded of in the course where I think you shared some of the struggle with moving from unlearning a certain pattern and habit in your coaching to learning a new way. Can you share a little bit about that struggle?
Oh, yeah. I love to be the expert. I love to be the expert. I love solving problems. It's one of my favorite things to do. And that's what I was like known for in the corporate world. You have a problem, give it to Tanya. She'll figure it out. She knows what to do with it. And my ego just loved that. You can't do that in coaching. I'm not the problem solver.
Mhm.
I'm here to apply curiosity. And it still is challenging for me. It's still something I'm working on. Because I all of a sudden can see, I'm like, oh, if they would just do this, it would be so much easier. If they would just do that, have they thought of this? And, I have to keep checking myself at the door and saying, this isn't your problem to solve. This is theirs to figure out, theirs to solve. And you just get to be curious and you just get to ask questions and you get to empower them in the process of solving their own problems. And you know when I check myself at the door and allow myself to do that, I see the other person soar, right? So
Mm.
when they can figure out what their problem is, what their opportunities are to solve it, what they feel called to do, what they feel excited about, when they tap into that through my curiosity and my questions, and you see that sense of like empowerment in them, like that's way better than satisfying my ego with being like, oh, I know what to do, I know what you should do on this one.
Yeah, I love that you had the experience of both and you saw the difference that that empowerment makes in
Yeah.
coaching.
Yeah.
So what else do you think was the hard transition for you?
The beginner mindset was really tough.
Yeah.
Again, like I just at this point in my career, like I've got over 25 years of experience and great experience, and I'm constantly wanting to draw on that. And it holds me back. And the more that I can apply the beginner's mindset, and I honestly, that's what entrepreneurship is as well, is you're showing up every day with that beginner's mindset. And the more you can apply that, the more possibilities you have in front of you. Because, when we're drawing on our experience, we're always drawing on our past, and it has a place, it has a time and a place. It's highly valuable. But when we can truly step into something with that beginner's mindset, apply that curiosity, and be open to the possibility of what do I not know in this? Like that's when we can really expand and evolve. And it's tough to do. It's tough when you have the experience. It's tough when you think you know
Mm.
so much. And you really have to check yourself to say, like, yeah, I know a lot, and there's so much I don't know. Right? There's so much I don't know. So let's move into this realm of what we don't know and be curious here, because that's where the most opportunity is.
So I have to say, I'm curious about the reaction of your clients. You must have had clients who experienced you as more of an advice giver and then some that experienced the shift. What was that like for them? They must have been like, but Tanya, give me advice. Tell me what to do.
So there's one in particular that I'm thinking of,
Oh, yeah.
and after I started the coaching, the executive coaching, and I told her, I said, in this session, I might come across a little stiff because there's something I'm really trying to practice. And I want to give you a heads up on that. So she's like, okay, no problem. And at the end of the session, she goes, yeah, I could tell you were really holding your words. And I said, oh, I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. I'm just really trying to practice some new techniques. And she goes, well, I just want to say this was a really powerful session. And that was when I got it. That was when I got it. And I was like, I don't have to be teaching. I don't have to be advice giving. I don't have to be mentoring. And it was in that
Oh,
session.
that's so fun. I think I
Yeah.
got shivers there. That's so
Yeah.
good.
Yeah. So that was when I got it, and she's been fun to work with because she's seen my growth, she's seen my evolution, and she's not afraid to give me feedback.
Mhm,
So
mhm. That's good.
it's been a nice, coaching partnership. She's an entrepreneur building a business as well, so we often have a lot to talk about just in general outside of coaching. But when we get to
Mhm.
coach, she's gotten to see my evolution, and it's a real testament to what we've been taught and the growth I've experienced.
That's great. The other thing that comes up for me is, because you've had the two experiences, what has shifted for you since certification? And I mean, what led you to be certified rather than just, start your practice, be a coach? What was certification for you?
For me, it was credibility. I also had experienced some coaches that weren't certified, and I didn't ask about certification, but I had worked with an executive coach for so long. I knew what that felt like, and I knew what those coaching sessions were like. And I found someone who I thought sounded incredible, and had a session with them, and I realized partway through, I'm like, I don't think this person's certified. And
Mm,
lo and behold, they weren't. And it was after that session, I was like, I need to be certified if I'm going to call myself a coach. This was where I struggled a little bit, because I was certified through nutrition coaching,
right.
and I had that
Mhm.
certification, but that's different than leadership. It's different than executive coaching. And I was like, no, I'm going to invest in this. I want the credentials, and I want to be a part of the community that has those credentials. I do a lot of facilitation. I love doing facilitation, and I do it in the corporate realm. And again, I wanted that certification to, give more credibility to what it is that I was doing. So
Do they,
that was my why.
that's great. Do they ask, like when you're doing corporate work, do they ask you if you're certified? Do they ask you for the ICF credentials?
So I had partnered with a certified coach,
Oh,
so I was doing a lot of work with her. So I know that she was asked, and in some instances, sometimes yes, sometimes no.
yeah,
So I think more and more are asking now, because there is a real difference, and you can really see it.
yeah. So, so I'm curious about the trends that you notice in coaching. What are you noticing, especially with the political climate, the economy? What are some of the things that you're noticing in your practice?
Oh, that's a great question. Um, those two topics, I think. I can already tell I'm trying to dance around them. They're very sensitive topics, right?
Yeah.
And they, in essence, based on how they're talked about in our society, they're also disempowering topics. They're right versus wrong topics. They're, you know, they're disempowering topics, like the economy, for one. Like, so many people are, I can't look for a job because of the economy, I can't do this because of the economy. And I'm like, so what? Right? The economy is a circumstance outside of you. What if you find a better job? What if you find, like, so it's shifting from that fixed fear-based mindset of what these fear-based headlines are doing, and moving into what is the possibility and what is the opportunity here, and evaluating from all angles. And it might not be the right time to look for a job because you want that security, and that's okay. But make that decision from a grounded place from within, not because you saw a headline in the news. And the same thing goes politically. Like, it's a very charged conversation, and two sides are trying to prove each other right or wrong. And I keep saying, if they would just be curious about, what do you know that I don't know? Like, that's my favorite question when entering into a political discussion with someone who has a different viewpoint than me. I'm like, get curious about, what do they know that maybe I don't know? It doesn't mean my mind will be changed, but it could. And maybe they have information that I don't have, and it kind of opens up a discussion that allows people to come together versus stand so firm in their right and wrong and not getting anywhere. So I feel that energy is showing up, and it's about how do we diffuse it a little bit in these coaching calls. How do we let go of the noise that's out there, get grounded, come back to self, and be curious about what is right for you, forgetting about all this stuff that's going on. What is inside of you that's right for you that you need to tap into.
So, as a coach, then, are you seeing more people needing coaching, or
Oh,
are you? Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm seeing more people. Well, I think this is outside of those two topics, the political climate and the economy, but I think the whole world, from 5 years ago moving online, we've lost some of our basic communication skills. And I think that's where coaching is really showing up as valuable, because we've gotten used to a screen. I'm sitting here looking at you on a screen. We're not actually making eye contact. I see you,
Right.
but if I make eye contact with you, I can't look at you, right?
Right.
So we've lost the art of that presence in person. Everything's written, everything's in emails, and we're missing the impact that our words, our conversations have on other people. And we're inferring a lot. That's another thing I see is a lot of people are, this text message, this was how it was sent. And I'm like, well, you're reading it through your perception. The tone that you are reading it with is about you, not about them, right? So I see that we've moved into this digital world and we've lost the art of basic communication and connection, and reading how our words impact other people, and reading that body language and what it does, and then feeling the sensitivities of it. If I say something in an email that hurts someone unintentionally, obviously I'm not going to try to hurt somebody, but if it unintentionally hurts somebody, I don't have the visual of that because they're reading it whenever they read it, and it has nothing to do with me in that moment. But if I was face to face with them and had that conversation, I could see how my words landed, and then it opens the door for, more communication. So that's the biggest change that I've seen in the last 5 years is we've really taken a step back in this basic art of communicating with each other and connecting with each other and seeking to understand each other.
Mm, absolutely. I totally 110% agree with you. And I think that coaching is an opportunity for people to reconnect
Yeah.
with their and emotion skill and social skill and communication skill.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So where do you want your business to go? What do you see in 5 years, 10 years?
Mm. That's such a timely question, because that's what I'm working on right now. I've really allowed things to happen organically over the last few years due to my personal circumstances, and I'm at a place now where I feel confident with, I call it my new life. I'm 4 years old now. That's what I always say, because everything happened
You're
4 years ago.
4? You're
Yeah.
4 years old now. I love it.
So that's
You
what I
got
say.
to reset your age?
Yeah, that's what I say. So I just had my 4-year birthday a couple days ago.
Amazing. Congrats.
Yeah. And at that point, health will always be number one for me, and everything that I do now has to support my health. But I allowed things to just unfold, to happen organically. There was a little bit of drive there, but not, I wasn't pushing myself. I was kind of taking it all in stride. And now I'm in that dreaming stage and that creative stage of okay, now I can hit the ground running a little bit more. And now I've got more capacity. And now I understand what my life looks like and how I can work with all of this. I want to make an impact. I hope to have a team. I really miss having a team. So I hope to build a team within my business. And I see group programs. I see a product line. that helps people reflect. You know, a lot of like internal reflection. So I see some products and courses around that. You know, and I really hope to provide something from my business that allows people to self-reflect, but find the courage and inspiration to say, like, I think I can do that, and I'm going to try whatever that is for them, right? But we are the creators of our lives, and we get to create our life every single day by the actions we take, the decisions we make, the thoughts we have, the ideas that we have. And if I can inspire more and more people to do that, you know, that's what I want to do. So yeah, I see expansion in the next 5 years, and lots of exciting things to unfold. And 10 feels far away still, so I don't know what 10 years looks like, but over the next 5, I'd like to have a team, a small team.
Amazing. That's a really beautiful vision.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then, if you think about your career, and I hear you talking about your why a lot, I hear you talking about like that impact you want to have. What's influenced that in you? Like, where did that come from?
You know, I think I want to say part of it's innate, part of it's probably my parents. I mean, they raised me to believe that I could do whatever I wanted to do, and I just always believed in that. So not much stopped me, even when they tried to stop me because they thought I'm like, hey, you taught me how to be this way, so this is how I'm going to be. But the biggest one for me is when I helped someone open a door, and when they saw their own possibility. And you know, I think of a few of the underdogs, so to speak, that I've worked with over the years that that got overlooked in their career, and you know, they wanted advancement, or they wanted to do something differently. And you know, I'd mentor them a little bit, and they'd take the advice that I offered, and then all of a sudden doors started opening, and they found their inner confidence, and they would take steps, and their career started taking off. And seeing that in others felt so good. And seeing someone realize their own potential and what they were capable of felt amazing. And I loved being able to plant that seed and then, you know, provide support for them in that journey. So I think that was a big driver. And, you know, I could do that for the teams that I was leading and the departments that I led over the years, but it was only a small group of people. And I thought, how can I do that for more?
Mm.
You know, it was great. You know, you have a department of 15 or 20 people, and you're impacting that group, and it was awesome. And I loved that. But what if I could do that for more? And what if I could teach them how to do that for the people that they interact with? And then, like, what if? And I just saw that waterfall effect.
Mm-hmm.
So that, you know, it was kind of an evolutionary process, but that was a big part of it.
So that brings me to my next question, which you've inspired, which is the all important question of how do you charge? Like, how do you charge for this service that you are obviously incredibly passionate about? And a lot of coaches have trouble asking for money for their service. And I'm included. I felt the same way too when I started. And it's because it feels so good. Like you feel almost like there's something wrong with asking, even though therapists and lawyers and accountants and everybody else who offers a service don't really have this issue. But what would you say to that? Like, what was your process?
It was certainly evolutionary, because at the beginning I felt guilty charging. At the
Mhm.
beginning I would do it for free. And then when I would start to charge, I felt like, oh, is this too much? Am I going to lose them? So there was a whole money mindset piece.
Yeah.
There was a whole value piece that I really did have to work on, and I had to do the work on myself. And one thing that stuck out to me, I have an incredible dentist. She loves what she does. She's so passionate. And she gets so excited when you come into the office.
That's
She,
fun.
she doesn't do it for free. And she's making an impact. And she's making a difference in people's lives, and I just think, why am I different? Why am I different than that? I've spent a lot of my education. I have a lot of value to offer, and it's, the right people will pay for it. Um, so at the end of the day, I think the price that you charge has to be one you feel comfortable with, and then I think that comfort level starts with, what are my bills and how do they get paid and how do I build a business and run a business and all that. So there's a mathematical equation to it. And there's a feeling equation to it, is what feels good for me, and what do I feel good charging, and that gets to change over time. Um, it's no different than what we buy anywhere else. Haircuts, they've changed over the years. They go up in price. So
Oh yeah, everything goes up apparently, especially food.
yeah, especially food.
Yeah.
So, it is an inside game, because all of a sudden
Mm,
you're having to really get clear on, do I know my value? Do I know my worth? Where is my comfort and discomfort with that? And wherever the discomfort shows up, that's your opportunity to look at your beliefs and thoughts around it and your mindset, and do your inner work, and start to take that step into that next level. And I think you'll experience that over time more than once, because when you all of a sudden have to face raising your prices, you get to go through that whole exercise again, because sometimes it eliminates some clients and opens the door for different clients. Like, it's again an evolutionary process in business.
mm. That's so good. I love two things you said, the money mindset and the inner game. Like it is both, right? It's
Yeah.
something you need to work through and decide. So, is there a resource or a book that you read, a podcast you heard? Was there something that you go to every time you have a bit of doubt, or you just want to remind yourself of like your ambition and your strength?
Yeah, so this started for me back in corporate. I was moved. So we all, it's open office environment with like those cubicle walls that you can hear everything and see everything, and my space was moved, and the people I moved near were a little bit disgruntled. So the energy was a little bit heavy every day. And I remember, I think it was Oprah had said this once. I don't know who the original person that said this was, but you become like the 5 people you spend the most time with.
Mhm.
And I just remember like every day feeling heavy, and I was like, what is going on? And then I started to consciously listen to what I was absorbing around me. So I made a list of 5 people that day, and I would come into work every morning. I would put my headphones on, I would go into YouTube, and I would pull up one of those 5 people, and I would listen to them for the first hour of my day, because I was like, I've got to absorb their energy, not this energy. And I've continued that practice. So I always have about 5 people that I draw on, that I like to listen to. I love Simon Sinek. I think he is fabulous as a thought leader in leadership. I really enjoy Robin Sharma. I
Mhm.
think some of his books have been great. He comes often on my list, depending who else is
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
Um, I I listen to Brene Brown from time to time. So I always have kind of like some of those people on rotation, some of those podcasts on rotation, and that helps me. Like, I'm mindful of what is the energy I'm surrounding myself, and how do I draw on that. I do think, I'll give you the caveat, is know where it is that you want to go and
Mhm.
surround yourself with that energy. So it's, I heard recently about the criticism of that saying, just be who you are. And it's like, I'd rather be who I'm becoming.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Right. So
Yes.
where is it that I want to grow into? What is that area of my life that I'm working on? And how do I surround myself with more of that energy to help me develop in that area? So, I kind of pick the 5 people on what are my goals right now? Where is it that I'm trying to grow or evolve into? What is it that I'm becoming, or who is it that I'm becoming in my life? And how do I bring more of that energy around me?
Yeah, it's such, podcasts are such a wealth, like a treasure chest, right? We have all these amazing people right at our fingertips that we can fill our minds with positive, you know, positive provocation.
Yep.
And I'm still trying to think of that author because now it's like a bug in my head.
I
it's
know.
he also didn't he write change the habit of being yourself or something like that. Anyways, it'll come back to me
I
later.
think so. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, listen, we're coming to the end of our time together. This has been so fun. I kind of want to sit here and pick your brain even more. It's been so great to hear your wisdom and you have such great insights. I love your perspective, the mindset that you bring to this work and to your work, to your vision for yourself.
Thank
I
you.
feel really grateful that you chose, our program to pursue your certification in. And also, I just want to say something about your group. Your group was so fun. Your group was just
Yeah.
this like, I love how people come together. And I actually was speaking to another client this morning and he said, are all your groups like ours? Because every group thinks they're like really special. And I love that because they are special. But I get to see, and other, my facilitation team also, not just my groups, but everybody's groups are so great. And it's so cool how these people, you all come together. It's like the universe brings you together in this one little place and time.
I,
And
I think I think you have a magic recipe though, because you keep the group small. And that was one of the factors for me, as other programs can be very, very large. And, our group sizes are small, so we get to really meet who we're in class with. And again, it increases that personal level of connection and accountability and showing up for each other and being there for each other and learning about each other's lives. And I really think that is such a factor in why every group thinks that their group is the best, because we truly do get to know each other
yeah.
and we develop that connection, that bond. And that to me was really appreciated, especially like in this world of, working from home, being virtual and all that. It allowed for a closer community team feel.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we actually found the magic is in 8 to 10. Sometimes we go bigger, sometimes we go smaller, depending on what's going on. But that's the magic. Like at Harvard, I'd have 55 people in my class,
Yep.
and you don't make those kinds of connections. You just can't. There's too. Although I had one professor, which I learned so much about facilitation from, actually. And he managed to make a group of 50 plus feel warm and inviting and compassionate. And so I think that we have actually adopted some of those strategies. But yeah, no, it's a really great, really great group that you had, great people, great network too to work in, right? I think like a lot of the people in your group, especially, were independent coaches or becoming independent coaches that you can collaborate with and network with and strategize with, right? Which is
Yeah.
really nice. Yeah.
Yeah. No, we have created a nice network.
Yeah. So leaving today, what's one thing that you feel, if you could say anything to a coach right now who's struggling to start or even maybe making that decision, do I or don't I? What's one thing you would want to let them know right now?
I think I think the thing is to keep going. If you have this dream, if you have this desire, if that seed is planted, keep going and allow it to flourish, because whatever life you're living right now, you once dreamed of that and you were once working towards building that. So you know how to do it and you just get to do it again in a different context. So it's keep going, like keep your eyes on that dream, know what it is that you want to do, and just keep taking those small steps every day towards it, because one day you're going to get there, and then you're going to be like, oh, how do I make this bigger? How do I make this different? What's working, what's not working. Yeah, so it's just keep going.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that, Tanya. I love that.
Yeah.
So why don't you tell people where they can reach you? And we're also going to put it in the show notes. But what's your web address or best place to reach you?
Yep. So my website is redefinepossibilities.com. So I can be found there. I can be found under my name, Tanya Gibson, on LinkedIn. And on Instagram, I can be found both at Redefine Possibilities. That's my Instagram handle. And then my own personal handle is at with Tanya.
Hmm.
And I'm more active on my personal, my at with Tanya. And I share my transformational story there, what I'm working on, what I'm what my evolution is, and what my goals are, and where I'm going. So sometimes it can be a little motivating and inspiring for others, because we all have goals, we all have dreams and desires, and it's just one step every day. And it's yeah, I like to show that process, because it's not always exciting. it's
Mm.
it's consistent and boring most days, but it's the small steps that get you there over time.
Incremental wins, right? Small
Yeah.
wins. I love that. It's arriving. It's not, it's becoming, as you said, it's not like success. I don't think about success because that's an end game for
Yeah.
me. I think about that continuity, which you're really, expressed so well. So they can reach you. And I just want to say thank you so much. It's been a real pleasure.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you very much for having me. I've loved this.
Okay.